The smell of roasted turkey and my grandmother's famous stuffing filled Uncle Robert's dining room, but the warmth of the food couldn't match the chill in the air every time the conversation turned to my career. I sat at the far end of the mahogany table, picking at my cranberry sauce, while my extended family caught up on another year of life updates. Uncle Robert's house in Westchester was the traditional gathering place for our family's Thanksgiving celebration. As the successful owner of Morrison and Associates marketing agency, he took pride in hosting elaborate dinners that showcased his achievements. The dining room walls were lined with awards from advertising campaigns, photos with celebrities, and framed articles from marketing trade publications. "So, Sophia," my cousin Jennifer said, cutting into her turkey with surgical precision, "still working on those computer things?" I nodded, keeping my response simple. "Still doing AI development." "That's nice, dear," Aunt Margaret chimed in, "though I still don't quite understand what that means." Uncle Robert, seated at the head of the table like a king surveying his domain, took a long sip of wine before weighing in. "It means she's playing video games and calling it work." The comment stung, but I'd learned to expect it. For the past 3 years, every family gathering had included some version of Uncle Robert's lecture about my unrealistic career choices. "Robert," my mother said quietly, "Sophia's doing very well with her consulting business." "Consulting?" He let out a harsh laugh. "She works from her apartment, Margaret. She doesn't have employees, an office, or any of the things that make a business legitimate. It's a hobby that pays a few $100s here and there." My 15-year-old cousin, Danny, looked up from his phone with genuine curiosity. "What exactly do you do, Sophia? Like, in simple terms?" "I design artificial intelligence systems for companies," I explained. "I help them automate processes, analyze data, and make their operations more efficient." "See," Uncle Robert gestured with his fork. "Buzzwords. Artificial intelligence, automation. It's all tech nonsense designed to sound important. Real businesses solve real problems for real people. Like advertising?" I asked mildly. "Exactly like advertising," he said, his voice rising slightly. "Morrison and Associates has 43 employees. We work with Fortune 500 companies. We create campaigns that generate millions in revenue for our clients. That's measurable impact." Jennifer nodded approvingly. "Dad's agency just landed Pinnacle Financial as a client. It's their biggest account ever. $3.2 million annual contract," Uncle Robert added proudly. Real money for real work. I continued eating in silence, wondering how long I could endure another round of the same conversation we'd had every holiday for years. "Sophia," Uncle Robert continued, warming to his favorite topic, "you're 28 years old. You have a computer science degree from a good school. You could be making 6 figures at Google or Microsoft instead of pretending your hobby is a business." "Maybe she likes being independent," Danny suggested. "Independence doesn't pay for health insurance," Uncle Robert shot back. "Independence doesn't build retirement savings. Independence doesn't get you a mortgage for a decent house." "I'm doing fine financially," I said quietly. "Fine isn't good enough," he declared. "You have potential, Sophia. Stop pretending your hobby is a business. Get a real job already. Join the corporate world like a responsible adult." That's when the doorbell rang. Uncle Robert frowned, checking his watch. "We're not expecting anyone else. The caterers finished hours ago." Aunt Margaret stood up. "I'll get." We could hear muffled voices from the foyer, then footsteps approaching the dining room. Aunt Margaret reappeared, followed by a tall man in an expensive suit who looked vaguely familiar. "Robert," Aunt Margaret said uncertainly, "this gentleman says he's looking for you. Something about an urgent project matter?" The man stepped into the dining room, and I immediately recognized him from the business magazines I read. James Wellington, CEO of Pinnacle Financial. Uncle Robert's face lit up with a kind of smile reserved for very important clients. "Mr. Wellington, what a surprise." "I wasn't expecting," Uncle Robert began, but James's attention had already shifted to me. "Safia, there's my favorite AI architect," James exclaimed, his face breaking into a genuine grin. "I was hoping I'd run into you at some point this weekend." Uncle's fork dropped onto his plate with a loud clatter. "James," I replied warmly, standing to shake his hand. "Good to see you. How's the deployment going?" "Better than we ever imagined," he said enthusiastically. "The predictive analytics system you designed has increased our portfolio performance by 23% in just 6 months. The board is calling it the most successful technology implementation in company history." The silence in the dining room was deafening. Every family member was staring at us with varying degrees of confusion and shock. "I'm sorry," Uncle Robert managed to stammer. "You two know each other?" James looked surprised by the question. "Know each other?" "Robert, Safia Chen is the architect behind our entire AI transformation. She's the reason Pinnacle Financial was able to modernize our trading algorithms and risk assessment protocols." "AI transformation?" Jennifer echoed weakly. "Safia designed a machine learning system that analyzes market patterns in real time," James explained, his excitement evident. "It's processing billions of data points every second, identifying investment opportunities our human analysts would never spot. We're talking about technology that's literally revolutionizing how financial services operate." Uncle Robert's face had gone pale. But she works from her apartment." James laughed. "She works from her headquarters. Have you seen her setup? 37 servers, quantum-grade processors, enough computing power to run NASA's mission control. Most tech companies would kill for that kind of infrastructure." "Headquarters?" Aunt Margaret whispered. "The converted warehouse in Brooklyn," I said simply. "It's easier to focus there than in a traditional office environment." "Warehouse?" Danny's eyes were wide with interest. "Like a secret lair?" "More like a research facility," I corrected. "Clean rooms for hardware development, testing environments for AI systems, secure servers for client data." James nodded approvingly. "Safia's operation is more sophisticated than most Fortune 500 departments. When we were shopping for AI consultants, every major firm we considered wanted to use off-the-shelf solutions. Safia was the only one who proposed building custom architecture specifically for our needs." "Custom architecture," Uncle Robert repeated numbly. "The trading algorithm alone took 8 months to develop," James continued. "Safia had to train the AI on 15 years of market data, then create predictive models that could adapt to changing economic conditions in real time. It's some of the most advanced machine learning work being done anywhere." My cousin Jennifer leaned forward. "How much does something like that cost?" James glanced at me, then back at the family. The initial development contract was $4.7 million. The annual maintenance and enhancement package is another $2.1 million. Uncle Robert's wine glass slipped from his fingers and shattered on the hardwood floor. $7 million? Aunt Margaret gasped. "That's just Pinnacle," James said. "Safia has similar contracts with Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, and 3 major insurance companies." She's probably got the most exclusive client roster in the AI consulting space. Goldman Sachs? Jennifer's voice was barely audible. I nodded. Their fraud detection system. It's reduced false positives by 89%, while catching 34% more actual fraudulent transactions. The insurance companies? Uncle Robert croaked. Claims processing automation, I explained. What used to take weeks of human review now happens in minutes, with higher accuracy rates than traditional methods. James pulled out his phone and showed the screen to Uncle Robert. This is Sophia's company valuation, according to last month's Forbes article. Apex AI Solutions is worth approximately $47 million, with projected revenues of $23 million this year. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. 23 million, Danny whispered. In 1 year? Revenue, not profit, I clarified. But yes, it's been a good year. James chuckled. Sophia's being modest. Her profit margins are over 60% because she's built such efficient systems. Most consulting firms dream of margins like that. 60%, Uncle Robert repeated mechanically. The beauty of AI consulting, James explained, is that once you've developed the core technology, scaling it to new clients requires minimal additional investment. Sophia's essentially licensing revolutionary technology to companies that desperately need it. But she doesn't have employees, Jennifer protested weakly. I have 12 full-time contractors, I corrected. Specialists in machine learning, data analysis, cybersecurity, and client integration. It's a lean team, but we're more efficient than most companies 10 times our size. James nodded enthusiastically. That's what makes Apex AI so valuable. No corporate bureaucracy, no middle management, just brilliant minds solving complex problems. When Pinnacle needed our trading system updated last month, Sophia had it done in 3 days. A traditional tech company would have taken 3 months. Uncle Robert was staring at me, as if I'd suddenly sprouted wings. But you live so simply. You drive that old Honda. You dress like a graduate student. Because I care about the work, not the lifestyle, I replied. Expensive cars and designer clothes don't make AI algorithms run faster. The old Honda, James laughed. Sophia, didn't you just buy that custom electric vehicle? The one with the experimental autonomous driving system. It's a prototype, I admitted. I'm testing self-driving algorithms for a potential automotive client. A prototype car, Danny said in awe. Like a one-of-a-kind. There are only 3 in existence, James confirmed. Sophia's essentially driving a $2 million research vehicle. $2 million? Aunt Margaret fainted back into her chair. James's phone buzzed, and he glanced at it apologetically. I'm sorry to interrupt your family dinner, but I actually came here on business, Robert. We need to discuss the Morrison & Associates contract. Uncle Robert perked up slightly, probably grateful for familiar territory. Of course. Is there an issue with the campaign development? Not exactly an issue, James said carefully. It's more of a strategic pivot. Pinnacle's board has decided to shift our marketing approach based on insights from Sophia's AI analysis. AI analysis? Uncle Robert's brief moment of confidence evaporated. The predictive system identified some concerning trends in traditional advertising effectiveness, I explained. Consumer behavior patterns suggest that Pinnacle's target demographic is becoming increasingly resistant to conventional marketing approaches. James nodded grimly. The data shows that our current advertising strategy will lose effectiveness by approximately 40% over the next 18 months. We need to completely reimagine how we reach potential clients. What does that mean for our contract? Uncle Robert asked, though his expression suggested he already knew. We're going to need AI-driven personalized marketing, James said. Dynamic content generation, predictive customer targeting, automated campaign optimization. It's beyond the scope of traditional advertising agencies. Uncle Robert's face crumpled. You're canceling our contract. Not canceling, James said diplomatically. Redirecting. We'd like Morrison and Associates to partner with Apex AI on the new approach. Traditional creative services combined with cutting-edge technology. Partner with Sophia? Jennifer asked incredulously. She'd be the lead consultant on marketing AI development, James confirmed. Morrison and Associates would handle creative execution under Sophia's technical guidance. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Uncle Robert, who had spent years dismissing my hobby business, was now being offered the chance to work under my supervision. The partnership contract would be worth $6.8 million annually, James continued. Split between technical development and creative services, with Apex AI taking the larger share due to the complexity of the technology component. Uncle Robert looked like he'd been hit by a truck. $6.8 million. AI-driven marketing is the future of the industry, James explained. Companies that don't adapt will be left behind. Sophia's technology gives us a 5-year competitive advantage over firms still using traditional methods. 5 years, Uncle Robert whispered. At minimum, I added. AI systems improve continuously. The longer we work with a client, the better the algorithms become at predicting and influencing consumer behavior. James checked his watch. I should let you get back to your family dinner. Sophia, can we schedule a meeting next week to discuss the Pinnacle expansion? We're looking at implementing similar systems for our European operations. Of course, Tuesday afternoon works for me. Excellent. He shook my hand again, then turned to Uncle Robert. Robert, have your team call my office Monday morning to discuss the partnership structure. This could be very good for Morrison and Associates if you're willing to embrace the technology. After James left, the dining room remained silent for several minutes. Uncle Robert sat staring at his broken wine glass, while the rest of the family processed what they'd just witnessed. Sophia, Aunt Margaret finally said, why didn't you ever tell us about all of this? Because every time I tried to explain my work, Uncle Robert told me it wasn't a real business. I replied honestly. It seemed easier to let you think what you wanted to think. But $47 million, Jennifer said. That's more than most public companies. It's not about the money, I explained. It's about solving problems that matter. AI has the potential to make financial markets more efficient, reduce fraud, automate tedious tasks, and free up humans to focus on creative and strategic work. Danny had been furiously typing on his phone. Sophia, you're famous, like actually famous. There are articles about you in Wired, NIT Technology Review, Harvard Business Review. Tech publications tend to cover AI developments, I said with a shrug. This one calls you the most influential AI architect under 30, he continued reading. Chen's custom machine learning solutions have generated over $2.3 billion in value for Fortune 500 clients. $2.3 billion, Uncle Robert said hollowly. In value creation for clients, I clarified. My systems help them make better decisions, reduce costs, increase profits. Everyone benefits. Uncle Robert finally looked up at me, his expression a mixture of shame and amazement. Sophia, I don't know what to say. I've spent 3 years telling you to get a real job, and you've been running a business worth more than I'll ever see in my lifetime. You didn't know, I said gently. And your marketing agency is successful too. We just work in different industries. But I was so dismissive, so condescending. I acted like you were wasting your time with computer games when you were actually building revolutionary technology. You were trying to look out for me, I replied. You wanted me to have security, stability, a conventional path to success. I understand that. Security? He laughed bitterly. You've got more security than anyone at this table. You're working with the biggest companies in the world on technology they can't live without. The partnership offer, Jennifer said suddenly. Are you really willing to work with Dad's agency after how he's treated you? I considered the question carefully. AI works best when it's combined with human creativity and expertise. Uncle Robert's team knows marketing, branding, consumer psychology. I know technology. Together, we could create campaigns that are both emotionally resonant and data-driven. You'd really do that? Uncle Robert asked. After everything I've said? Family is family, I replied. Besides, the best AI systems learn from their mistakes and adapt. Maybe we can too. The rest of Thanksgiving dinner passed in a blur of questions about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and what it was like to work with major corporations. Uncle Robert, who had spent the first half of the meal lecturing me about getting a real job, spent the second half asking for my advice about integrating technology into his marketing strategies. As we cleared the dishes, Danny cornered me in the kitchen. Safia, can I ask you something? Sure. Why didn't you defend yourself earlier? When Uncle Robert was saying all that stuff about your work being a hobby, I thought about it for a moment. Because proving yourself through arguments is exhausting and usually ineffective. I'd rather prove myself through results. And the money. Why do you still drive an old car and dress so simply if you're worth millions? Because I've learned that the most important things in life, intellectual curiosity, meaningful work, strong relationships, can't be bought. The money is just a byproduct of doing something I love and doing it well. Do you think I could learn AI development? I smiled at his enthusiasm. If you're willing to study mathematics, computer science, and statistics, absolutely. The field needs young people who aren't afraid to ask impossible questions. Like what? Like how can we teach machines to recognize patterns humans can't see? How can we automate tasks that require creativity and intuition? How can we use artificial intelligence to solve problems we haven't even identified yet? Danny's eyes lit up with the same curiosity that had driven me into AI research years earlier. That sounds amazing. It is amazing. And in 10 years, when you're designing AI systems that make today's technology look primitive, maybe you can come to Thanksgiving dinner and blow everyone's minds the way James did today. As I drove home that night, in my perfectly functional Honda, which I had no intention of replacing, I reflected on the strange dynamics of family expectations. Uncle Robert had spent years measuring my success by his own standards, unable to see that I was building something unprecedented in a field he didn't understand. But the truth was, I hadn't been entirely fair either. I'd let him believe his assumptions rather than taking the time to explain why my work mattered, why artificial intelligence was revolutionary, why solving complex technical problems could be just as valuable as traditional business success. The partnership with Morrison and Associates would be interesting. Uncle Robert's team brought decades of marketing expertise, while my AI systems could analyze consumer behavior patterns in ways that would transform how they'd approach campaigns. Together, we might create something neither of us could achieve alone. My phone buzzed with a text from Danny. Started looking at MIT's computer science program. Thanks for the inspiration. I smiled, thinking about the 15-year-old who'd spent dinner learning about machine learning algorithms and asking thoughtful questions about the future of technology. Maybe the most important thing that happened at Thanksgiving wasn't Uncle Robert's realization about my business success. Maybe it was planting seeds of curiosity in the next generation of innovators. After all, the best AI systems are designed to learn, adapt, and pass their knowledge on to even more sophisticated successors, just like families when they're working properly.